Welcome back to the Diesel Tank Podcast. We are your hosts, Kevin and Jacob. We appreciate you all stopping by, and if you like what you see, please hit that like, follow, and subscribe button, whatever platform you found us on. Now, let's get this show started. All right, so on today's podcast, what we're going to talk about is a couple different things. We have two topics, but we're going to start with one that's kind of a longer topic, and then we kind of have a filler if we don't have enough space and time. So, first topic we're going to talk about is drivers' wages and should we get paid by the mile still? Should we get paid by the hour? Should we restructure everything? I mean, I don't know where to start with that, but should we go to a salary based stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the best solution moving forward in trucking? Because we have a lot of drivers that say they're not making enough money as company drivers. So, do we have to restructure? I mean, wages haven't changed much in years. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've gone up a little bit, but not a lot. So, let's try to break this down a little bit and give you the thoughts of a couple truck drivers in the industry right now. I'm an owner operator. Kevin here is still a company driver.
Company driver, paid on a salary base now. Was getting paid on a percentage base, and so far I like the salary base better. Uh, but I don't know if it's a one size fits all kind of deal, or if an hourly wage would be better for some people. What do you think?
I think when it comes down to it, like, I also get paid a percentage of the load as an owner operator, but I've been company driver before, and I've ran. The only other thing I've done is ran mileage pay. Um, where I think kind of where my thought goes with this is like, I know Walmart's gone back to it, and they got away from it for a little while when freight rates kind of went a little crazy or whatever. But during different times of years and stuff like that, but where they pay you for all your time. I do think drivers, whether you get paid by the hour or percentage or whatever it is, you should still get paid for all your time, right? So if you're on duty by law, technically, if you go by the way you're supposed to with the DOT, anytime you're getting loaded, unloaded, anything like that, technically you're supposed to be on duty, right? Even if you're not, even if you're sitting in the truck not helping, technically you're supposed to be on duty.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies won't pay their drivers for that time, right? So in that aspect of it, I think that a hybrid would be a little better in my opinion. You know, maybe if you're gonna, because I remember back in a few years back when I worked for another company, they used to pay us for everything that we did. We got paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we had a lower cents per mile than a lot of other companies. Our solo drivers over there made 36 cents a mile, which is, from what we were looking up, is actually less than the national average of what most companies pay. Right?
Mm,
I think you said it's upward.
I think it's right in dead middle.
Yeah.
What I looked at was 28 to 40 cents a mile. So it's on the upper end of the.
Right. And but we also got paid for everything we did. So we hit a dock, we got paid for it. We had multiple stops, we got paid for it. Every time we bumped a dock, whether it was loaded or unloaded, we got paid to bump that dock. Now we didn't get paid an hourly rate, but all those bumps of docks and unloading and loading adds up, right, throughout the week. Plus your mileage pay, you made a pretty decent living.
Yeah. See, and with what I was doing, if say we got hung up somewhere and couldn't get unloaded, and we had to wait several hours, uh, if uh, your pay from that was based off of what you made that week, the company
Right.
took the majority of what we were getting paid for detention time.
Right, and see, and that's that's always bothered me about working for companies. Like, some companies, like, after 2 hours you get paid
Hmm.
X amount of dollars an hour, but they're hitting that broker who's hitting that shipper or whatever, or receiver. They're getting paid way more than what they're paying you,
Oh, absolutely.
and I don't like that. Like, I think that if you're sitting somewhere and they're, oh, we'll pay you $10 an hour, but they're going to charge that receiver X amount of dollars more than that, so they make money. I don't think they. I always thought all that should go to the driver because they're the ones sitting there waiting.
Or at least
You know,
the bigger cut should go to the driver. Like,
right,
say because we were on a sliding scale pay. Uh, so it was a variable rate of what we were making that week. Uh, but if we only my cut for the week was only 25%. I only got 25% of what the detention pay was.
right,
Now, I think that should be flipped. I think the driver should get 75% because we spent A, our time sitting there, and B, our money on food, drinks, and
right.
all that stuff. Like, yes, the company spent money on diesel. You're idling your truck, which all of our trucks idled. But there needs to be an even, like a shift in the way some of these company owners are thinking.
Right.
And
I,
the worst part is, like, guys I was working for, they company drivers for, and they thought, oh, just because you're getting a percentage of it, fine. No, I want the bigger cut of the pie because I sat there and spent my money.
Sometimes I feel like, depending on the owner, sometimes I feel like, um guys that were company drivers and then bought trucks are sometimes, I hate to say this, some of the worst owners to work for,
I would agree with that 100%.
because I've seen, now, not all of them. I'm not saying every single one's that way, but I've talked to plenty of drivers out there that feel like they were treated better at a mega fleet from somebody that's never drove a truck before than they were at a former truck driver, now owner of a fleet. Because in my mind, the only thing I can think of is that the previous truck driver that now owns his own trucks had, in a way, in their mind, gotten treated poorly by another company
Mm-hmm.
and got so little of the pie before that when they start making that bigger chunk, they forget that they were a company driver at once too.
Yeah.
And then they're just trying to. And granted, I know as much as the next person trying to become an owner of my own truck, stuff like that. That sometimes our costs are a little higher than a company driver. Oh, majority of the time they are a little higher than the company driver.
Yeah.
But you know, I have the dream of someday of maybe owning a few trucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you got to have the people around you to keep you grounded, to be able to understand that, hey, you were a company driver once before too. Let's take care of your drivers.
Yep.
There's a lot of companies out there and people that think that they're fleet owners now. That's like, oh, I take care of my driver. I take care of my drivers.
Yeah.
Really, they don't.
Like, one of my biggest complaints with the last company that I worked for, he completely forgot what it was like to be in the truck 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. Uh, he a belittled his drivers and thought he was better than us. Uh, Meanwhile, we're the ones making the money.
Yeah.
But I I just got fed up with it. That, and he didn't want to take care of his equipment. You know?
Yeah.
Uh, if your driver tells you, "Hey, this is messed up. I need this fixed." Probably want to get it fixed pretty quickly.
Right.
Uh,
So here's a question on that though, right? So, we're talking about wages and pay and that what you're talking about falls into a lot of like downtime and not getting paid for it, right?
mm-hmm.
Or making repairs that technically the company should make, but you end up making on your own just because it's going to take too long for them to figure out what they want to do, right?
Yep.
But here's what it my question boils down to is like, do you think that God, my brain just went blank for a second there. But do you think that um that kind of put a bad taste in your mouth from the jump on that side of it? But do you think a company that has a better maintenance program that has very little downtime that keeps a good, well maintained fleet, maybe in the long run, paying their drivers a little less makes up for it because they're able to stay moving more?
Um, I think in a
A-
way it does, but on the other hand, eh, like,
And the reason why I asked that is because, like, where I worked at, the last fleet I worked at, um, where my wife and I teamed, we were, like I said, middle of the road, I guess, from what we looked up as pay wise,
mm-hmm.
but we didn't get paid. They stopped paying us for everything that we did. We stopped getting paid for like every dock we bumped and stuff like that. And then we started getting paid for like if we did multiple drops and then stuff like that. But it seemed like that we had the ability to make more money, even though we were only really, most of us only worked Monday through Friday. Um, but we had immaculate maintenance. Like if you brought a truck in on Friday and said, "Hey, this is broke,"
Mm-hmm.
or a trailer and said, "This is broke," by Monday when you left or Sunday when you left, your truck was fixed.
Yeah. See,
There's no question about it. Your truck was fixed.
and like that, like I don't think getting paid by the mile is right at all. Like I feel like they need to do something with that because from what I've read and looked up, wages like your rate per mile really hasn't changed in what, 30, 40
Yeah,
maybe.
that's about right. That's about right.
And like I feel like that should either go up or change the way the driver can get.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the question, right? Base pay, right? I not like I said, on an average week, what would you say would be a good hourly rate, right? So, do you because that sounds like you're either aiming more towards like a salary based driver, right?
Mhm.
Or a hourly rate for drivers. Get paid for all your time that you do, right? But we kind of talked about this, bounced this idea back and forth a little earlier before the episode. But do we go to an per hour flat rate, or do we say only work 40 hours, or do we still have the 70-hour clock and like I said, paid a flat rate, or do we allow people to get 30 hours overtime every week?
Um. Okay, so I have worked the hourly gig too, but that was oil field. So, but
Right.
it
Well,
it still applies because I was still trucking. Um, and they'd let us get all the overtime we wanted.
right. But you also got to realize, on the aspect of it, playing devil's advocate with this, your companies are still only getting paid a certain rate per load to haul. They don't get paid by the mile. They get paid a set
Yeah, they get paid a set
rate.
rate.
So, like, I just did the math real quick on my phone. If you did, to me, coming out here, even just starting, $1,500 a week before taxes is not unfathomable. I think that's a decent
Yeah, that's a decent salary.
for starting off, or even a few years in. That's not a bad salary. $1,500 a week.
Yeah, and $1,500 a week that averages out to about $78,000 a year.
Right. And if you
Which
did that times or divided that by 70 hours a week, that's $21.42 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
flat rate.
Yep.
So you get paid $21.42 an hour flat rate. Because I think maybe companies would kind of go for that. I'm not saying they would guaranteed, but they might, you know?
Yeah.
Because if they've got to pay time and a half on 30 hours every week, granted, not everybody works a full 70-hour clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, drivers out there, if they know they're going to get that overtime, they're going to push it.
Yeah.
So how do you regulate the drivers that are going to abuse? If you're just going to pay hourly plus overtime, how are you going to regulate the drivers that are going to try to abuse that? Because let's be honest, most drivers, not saying it's a bad thing, but they're going to try to abuse it because of they want that money. Because overtime is time and a half, so you're looking at $21.47 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What? Let me do the math real quick. But $21.42 an hour divided by 2 is $20.62 plus 21.42. You're looking at $42.04 an hour in overtime pay.
I think you did the math on that wrong.
I probably did. I suck at math.
$32.13 an hour.
Okay,
for
32.30 still.
overtime.
So you're looking at 40 hours at $21.42, right?
Mm.
And then drivers are gonna, if they're gonna get paid for everything they do, they're gonna milk that as much as they can. So do you put a cap on duty time?
I mean,
Like you're only allowed 2 hours per pickup and delivery. And the only reason why I say that's where it runs into issue, because you get some of these guys that run reefer trailers, they'll sit at a shipper technically supposed to be on duty, waiting to get unloaded or loaded for 24 to 48 hours sometimes.
Mhm.
So do you say you only count your on duty time when you bump a door
I would,
and then you put a cap on it? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I would
From
say,
the business owner side of it, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're trying to limit your exposure, because at that time you're going to have people that are going to milk the system, that are going to pretty much break you and cause you to go broke
yeah.
because
Now-
they don't care.
Now, the way I would do it is you're gonna get paid for 40 hours regardless.
Right.
Like you get paid for your clock. You'll get paid the entire 70. You'll get time and a half after 4. If you're sitting in a dock for 24, 48 hours waiting to get loaded, that's when the detention time comes into play. And
Okay.
where, like, the big mega carriers, they probably charge an ungodly rate for their truck sitting parked in a dock. So, I mean, I feel like you should get your pay for the detention time, and that just be a set, like, if it's 21.42 or even 20 an hour, just sit in fucking dock.
So do you think, okay, so hear me out on this one, right? So let's say driving time, fueling, all that stuff, you're at that 21.42 an hour,
Mhm.
right? Then what if, say you own a truck and your guy hits a dock and he's there for 4 hours?
Mhm.
What if that 4 hours is at like $15 an hour?
Yeah. That.
To where, you don't get paid your full rate for detention,
Mhm.
but you still get paid for your time.
Yeah.
Like if you're only there an hour, then yeah, you get your 21.42 an hour, whatever it is,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. But if you're there any more than 2 hours or an hour, then you get for that downtime you're there. You get paid $15 an hour, or $10 an hour, whatever it is to because what that in my mind is thinking like the business side of it as the owner side of it, right?
Mhm.
If I got a load that pays me, we were talking about this earlier, and it's going to be one of our later topics in one of our podcasts. But say you're an owner or I'm an owner, and I book a load that I get from the broker for $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do I, if I'm paying my driver X amount of dollars to haul that, and it takes him 20 hours to deliver it because it's a long run and he's a solo truck or whatever, so it's 2 10-hour days.
Yeah.
You're cutting into that $3,500 because now I also have to pay fuel out of that. So then that $3,500 turns into like, hey man, I'm out on a long run. That could be upwards of $1,500 worth of fuel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're paying the fuel regardless, whether you're paying the guy by the mile or by the hour.
Right, but I mean, by the mile, if you really think about it, if he's got to do what, say, 1,000-mile run. I mean, if you got a governed truck, take you a day and a half, 2 days to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you paying 36 cents a mile times 1,000 miles, it's $360. So in that $3,500 run, you cut $360 out of that, and that pays your driver.
Yep.
And then turn around and now you got to figure out fuel. Say it's $1,000 in fuel, so now you're out $1,360 out of that run for fuel. Now you're left yourself with what, $2,000. The only thing I could see where it come in creeping in on that extra money that your operations cost, excuse me, is the hourly rate.
Yeah. Well, see, it's only $68 difference. Hours
Yeah.
doing that, if say, that 1,000-mile run takes that driver 20 hours. Shouldn't.
Right.
But,
yeah. No. But some drivers run a little slower. Some drivers take their time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But
everybody there's so many different ways to do this industry that everybody does it different, right? And there's no wrong way to do it as long as the job gets done.
mm-hmm. Well, there is a wrong. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, people's opinions are different ways on it. You know what I mean?
Well, like I'm saying, if you've got a pretty good window and you can't haul around and you are still late for your delivery,
Yeah,
you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. No, I agree that. I agree with that.
But yeah, it's $68 more to pay them hourly to make that 1,000-mile or that 20-hour run, whatever it is. So you're not out much more, but that puts a little bit more money into.
And I think at the end of the day, it's not a bad thing to have your driver paid more, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really not a bad thing. I'm a driver, you're a driver. Hopefully we get drivers listening to this podcast and company owners, and if we get big enough with this podcast, hopefully we can have people come on that can debate this topic or other topics, stuff like that, to kind of give us their point of view. Because right now we're just shooting in the dark with it.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think drivers should make that little bit extra. But like I said, you could see where drivers would kind of want to push it farther. You know what I'm saying? And it could cause issues. So you kind of have to regulate it a little better. But here's a question I have for you, because you've been paid percentage, and I'm sure you've been paid mileage, and so have I, and percentage, and I haven't been paid a salary rate. But do you, in your opinion, do you make more? Are you happier making a salary than you were percentage or mileage?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you make more money?
Maybe not more money, because when I was running percentage, face it, we didn't exactly do everything by the book, but I could bring home potentially upwards of $4,000
right
as a driver, and that was before taxes, because it was all 1099 contractor crap. And once you take taxes out of that, I don't know, you're probably looking at
And the reason why I ask is because, like, me personally, I'm a lease operator. I'm buying a truck, um, doing specialized freight and stuff like that. And I've had people tell me I'm crazy for taking, I go out for 2 months and take 10 days off.
mhm,
I've had drivers tell me I'm crazy for that. They don't understand why I do that, blah, blah, blah. But my thing is, not only do I factor in the money that I make, but I also factor in part of my so-called wages or whatever, my time that I get to spend away from a truck is also factored into whether I'm going to go work somewhere or not.
yeah,
If I got to spend 8 weeks or 2 months in a truck, then I only get 4 days off.
yeah. No, that's not
You know what I'm saying?
kosher at all.
Right. I would even take less money
Hmm.
to have that quality time at home. And then it doesn't matter if we just sit here and film podcasts, play video games, twiddle our thumbs on our front porch. It doesn't matter. I would still take less money for that ability to be home, away from a truck, out of a truck, to be able to just live my life, because I feel like a lot of companies push drivers into trucks that they want them out there. They don't want them going home.
Yeah,
They'd rather have them in the truck because that's when they can make the most amount of money out of that driver and that truck as if it's moving.
yep.
And to me, you seem happier now that you're on this salary based truck with the salary based company,
Oh yeah,
you know? Um, so you seem like you're enjoying it more,
yeah.
you know?
And
And
one of the
go ahead.
biggest things for me, as to why I came to doing what I'm doing now, is for the benefit. Like
Right.
I didn't have any benefits doing what I was doing. I was tired of being in a truck constantly and yeah, not getting paid for work because I'd have to go on the weekends and spend time away from my family to work on their equipment. Where
Right.
he's like the owner told me that he's gonna take care of everything, and now I've still got to go out there. So
I think that puts a lot of strain on marriages and relationships, even with friends. And
mhm,
because, with what we do, we end up meeting. I mean, that's how we met. We're both truck drivers. We met in a Discord channel or whatever, and became friends and started talking and stuff like that. So we can communicate and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it you lose. A lot of drivers seem like they end up losing their home life and the people that they knew at home, because if you really think about it, with the people at home, if you it's almost like you disappear.
mhm,
If you're not there, they forget about you.
yeah, out of sight, out of mind, kind of deal.
Right. And that's sad, but that's the way human nature is, right?
Mhm,
And then that causes depression and all that stuff going on in that act, because you're like, man, where'd all my friends go? Well, their life is continuing, and you've just kind of boop, you're out of the picture.
yeah,
So, in that sense of the word of it, I do think there should be a driver wage restructure, 1,000%, because I do agree with you. I'm trying to loop this all back in, because we kind of got off a few little tangents or whatever. But I mean, we kind of kept it on topic. But I'm trying to loop this back in.
yeah,
So I do think there should be some sort of driver restructuring on salaries, wages, whatever it is, whatever we can do to not strain the owner too much,
mhm,
but also I think we need to realize that um drivers nowadays are still making around the same amount of the money they made 30 years ago. In that 30-year time span, prices of stuff has increased significantly.
Yes.
And we're making less money to haul the freight that they're charging more money for in the stores. I mean, granted, will the owners have to, the owners of the trucks and stuff like that, ask for more money if they've got to pay their drivers more? Yeah, I mean that's the way it goes all around. But at the end of the day, I think there's where, and we're going to talk about it in another episode, that so-called driver shortage, I think, comes into effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because some companies, I mean, I've talked to a few guys, them coming in out of training, they're making $400 or $500 a week, being away from their family. Well, hell, you got McDonald's down the road paying $21, $22 an hour in some of these cities,
Mm-hmm.
40 hours a week, and they're home every night and every weekend, or every day at least.
Yep.
And why would I want to go on the road and be away for months on end and never see my family when I can go down to Walmart, or McDonald's, Target, Buc-ee's,
Mhm.
$18, $21 an hour. I only got to work 40 hours a week. I'm over here killing myself away from my family. I'm on 70.
Yep.
And I could go home, make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's why I came off the road and went local. Now, granted, I went the opposite direction. I went local and made less money, but it was more for mental health and a better grasp of reality, because I was starting to lose touch.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have that home life to go with it, what's the point of making the money? So, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I do think there should be some sort of restructuring. What it is, do we have all the answers? No, but I think it should be talked about.
Definitely. It should definitely be a topic that is brought up higher up
More
the
often.
food chain. Yeah.
Not just higher up the food chain, but I think the higher up should sit down and talk to their drivers and be like, look, we get it. But I think, like you've said and I've said, a lot of these owners of these companies have lost touch.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're, especially with the bigger companies, maybe the original person that started it is only in the office maybe once or twice a week, and he's got dispatchers and safety people that pretty much are running the company for him, and he comes in a couple times a week to make sure things are still moving properly. But like, I think a lot of people end up losing touch.
Yep.
As soon as they get in that office position. I've seen it multiple times. I've seen it time and time again, where a guy gets out of a truck, goes in the office, and it's just like, I don't know if it's brainwashing or what it is, but they lose touch of where they came from,
Yeah. I think that may be what it is. It's just they lost touch. They forgot where they started.
Yeah.
Um,
They forgot they had to struggle also.
Yeah.
You know. But I think.
Speaking of the inflation, I just looked it up real quick, and in 1994, exactly 30 years ago,
Yeah.
the price for a dozen eggs was 86 cents. Today you're pushing
Yeah.
259.
So here's something to look up real quick, and you're a little better at finding this stuff than I am, so I'll let you look it up. What was the average cents per mile pay for a driver in 1994? I'm curious if it really, because people say that the freight rate or the mileage pay hasn't changed in 30 years, but what was the average company paying? I don't, it might be hard to find, but what was the average company paying back in 94? You know what I mean? Like, was it less, more? Like, I don't even know if we could find that answer. But I agree on the sense of salary pay, I think would be more feasible for a lot of drivers than mileage pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, then
like if you've got guys, like we'll just put it this way: if your guys are running 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and they're home on the weekends, there should absolutely be a base salary for them.
Right.
And if they go, because if you're a halfway decent owner, you know what your minimum cost per week is, right? Like the company I worked for, our break even was $5,000. Truck needed to make at least $5,000 for its break even. So as long as your driver is going over that break even point, I feel like you should throw him a bonus. Even, you know, he's got a base salary of $1,500. He makes, the truck makes $7,000-8,000. Throw him, 250, $300.
Yeah.
If you're doing a deal like I was doing with the hopper, and you're out there working on the truck that you're driving, as long like if I feel like if the company's owner is decent, he would, hey, save me a boatload of money by working on this truck. Here's 250, $300. Not
Yeah.
not that exact amount, but
No, pay for a little bit of something of your time. Yeah.
yeah. Especially if if it's a deal that's gonna take all day on a Saturday, definitely be getting paid a pretty decent amount. Because that time, if you were to take it to a shop and they were to spend a Saturday working on it, you're looking at a couple $1,000. The way the
Yeah.
shop labor prices. So while yes, you're footing the bill for the the parts, maybe tools if your driver doesn't have tools. I carried tools with me, so I had everything to do what I needed to do. Uh, so at that point, you're you're kind of screwing your driver, and you're making them not really want to go out there and work on it or tell you when stuff's wrong to get fixed.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I just looked this up. This is an interesting where we're talking about how nothing's changed in 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking up on the trucker report. I just typed it in real quick and this popped up. A driver was talking about 20 years ago what he made, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his wife was searching through the closet and she found a box of pay stubs. And from 4/19/1994, now I don't know what this guy did in trucking, but he was a truck driver. His gross pay was $13.75 that week. Now you go to what? I don't know how many years difference. 10 years maybe. So he made in 1994 he made $13.73.
Mm-hmm.
Then on 4/16/2014,
That's right.
his
20
pay
years.
his pay went to 1,026 for that week.
Mm.
Now we know things may happen. Maybe he didn't pull a full week.
Yeah.
Mileage, mileage was a little short. So there's going to be that little bit of
discrepancy.
there. Now, I did a search. What? Now this is in Mississippi because that's where I'm out, and that's what it's. That's where it's gonna. My Google search is gonna automatically kick to. So this may be different in different parts of the world, but what do you think in mid-range to high range? What do you think a driver in 2024, according to ZipRecruiter, should make a week?
Like I said, I feel like $1,500 is a pretty good base.
$1,332 a week to $1,849 a week is what they say an average salary is on ZipRecruiter for a truck driver. but the current range is between 1,092 and 25 percentile up to in the 25 percentile. So 25% of truckers will make 1,092 a week,
Mm-hmm.
and 75% of the truck drivers make 1,575 a week. So that tells you right there, according to ZipRecruiter, pay hasn't changed in 30 years.
Yeah.
Really, it hasn't.
No.
We're still making the same pay they were making back in 1994.
Yep.
On average. That tells me, and like I said, we're not asking for crazy numbers,
No, we're not.
right?
We're not asking for $3,000 a week.
You know, I say on the low end it should be $1,500 a week. On the high end, I don't see where between $1,500 and $1,800 a week is unrealistic for a truck driver.
Yeah, I feel like your years should determine. Okay. So like, if you've got verifiable experience, verifiable safe miles, you should definitely be getting paid. I feel closer to 2,500.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me ask this question because you brought up an interesting thing that just popped in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said experience and safety and verifiable mileage.
Yep.
Okay, so I started driving back in 2010, just at 15 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? So take me as a driver, right? So I come to your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
You run off a salary based weekly salary rate.
Yep.
You see that I have 15 years worth of experience, verifiable. You know, I've been driving over the road, whatever, 15 years. A few little bumps in the road. I had a couple tickets here and there over the 15 years. Um, but just stupid tickets, nothing like safety violation wise.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
just
As long
like,
as it's not a safety thing.
okay. But then you look down and you see where I flipped a truck. And I'm coming to work for you, and say I passed your insurance and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Should I make less than someone that say has been driving for 5 years but has no accident?
No. I feel
But
like
granted, my wreck was something on the truck braking, right? Didn't receive any tickets.
yeah.
Didn't get any violations or anything like that. When they pulled the truck out of the ditch, you seen where the tire was snapped back. So it wasn't something like I got a ticket for it. I was free and clear.
Yeah.
But should I make something less that, or say there's another driver right next to me that has 15 years worth of experience, just
Mm-hmm.
like I do? Should he make more than I do? But because my safety technically is not, you know, pr- you know,
Blooming free.
pristine,
Yeah.
right?
My thoughts on it.
Now, granted, everybody, we're just a bunch of truck drivers chewing the fat, so it's not like we're,
Yeah.
you know,
This isn't
oh,
gospel. So
yeah, it's not like we own fleets.
Yeah.
I have wrecked a truck. I'm not gonna lie, that part was true, but it's not like we own 1,000 trucks and we're running a fleet.
yeah. I feel like regardless of experience, right?
Okay.
Say brand new driver straight out of truck driving school,
Mhm.
whether that be from a mega carrier or they paid for it on their own, whatever.
Right.
They base salary should start out. I'm gonna say $1,300 for 60 days, 60 to 90 days, to make sure they're not gonna, have any catastrophic accident.
Right.
Once,
I see where you're coming from because you want to make it worth their time to
Mhm.
be out here on the road for as long as they are.
yeah, and so after that 60 or 90 days, you get a $200 bump in your salary,
Okay.
and then yearly you'll have a performance review. As long as you're on time, you're taking care of equipment, everything is up to snuff on it. You haven't messed up not one time. I feel like I don't know, probably, and it's not gonna seem like a lot of money, but that $1,500 turns into like $1,600.
Okay.
Add another $100 onto it, and then
Okay.
you know you've got your vacation time and all that stuff along with it.
Right.
Um, and then insurance, offer a 401k plan if you're a large enough company to do that.
Right.
Um, like for the company I work for now, they offer health, dental, vision, um, life insurance, AD&D, uh,
That's accidental death and dismemberment.
yep.
If anybody doesn't know, yeah.
What else?
Do they offer retirement?
They do offer, the 401k retirement.
Right.
What else? They give me a company credit card. I don't have to worry about whether or not that card's going to work to get a rental car to get to where I need to go, or a plane ticket to where I need to go, or if it's going to clear for me to have a hotel room.
Right.
And like, I hate to keep jumping back to the company I worked for before, but there was a lot of times I didn't know if the company card that I had for parts, oil, and stuff like that was gonna decline when I went to register.
Right.
Um,
So you're saying with what you're doing now, you have more of a peace of mind,
mm-hmm.
and that means a lot more to you than making crazy amounts of money or potential of making crazy amounts of money.
Yep.
Now, do you think that what you're saying, because you're on, like we said, you're on salary based, and you have all that peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that would help with driver retention?
I think it would. Um,
Because my thing is, I think like I said, we're going to talk about this on another episode, but the driver shortage they're talking about and stuff like that, I don't believe it 100%, but I think a lot of it is these big companies' failure to have driver as good as driver retention as they need because of
yeah, their
the
turnover rate's high.
right, because of they're not making the money that people need to make to stay out here or even stay with that company.
Mm-hmm.
I hear guys of they're sitting in truck stops for 3 or 4 days waiting on a load. You're not getting paid for that 3 or 4 days sitting there.
Nope.
The only time you're getting paid is if you're under a load, and then they may pay you some detention time. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, you're not getting paid for that 3 or 4 days that you're sitting there doing nothing.
Yep.
So
The one of the guys I used to work with, he still works for the company. He got sent a load from Georgia or Alabama, one of the two, going up to New York State, upstate New York, and he was sitting there for 2 days. He got there on a Friday, and he was sitting there all weekend, unpaid.
wow. Wow. See, and when I come up on that, right? So I run expedited freight. So, and technically, I'm considered an owner operator, lease operator, whatever you want to call it. Um, I work for a really small guy that gives people an opportunity to buy a truck, and that's what I'm doing. And so there is plenty of times where, with what I do, we do sit a weekend. But at the end of the day, I have to factor that into my cost of what I run freight for or run loads for and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So my mindset's a little different than the average company driver, right?
Yeah.
Because I took that on knowing that I have that potential of sitting and having to wait on a load.
Yeah. Well, see, like I said, this was doing hopper bottom stuff,
Right.
and majority of the places that hoppers go are not open on the weekends. They
Right.
do not do anything on the weekends. Um, the place he went to happened to be one of those 24/7 kind of places where they operate over the weekend. Um,
Hmm.
but they were broke down for some reason.
And I sit there and I hear about stuff like that, and it's like, it feels like to me over the years, even when I was at a larger company when I first started, and then I went to a smaller company, right? It seemed like the planners or dispatchers, whoever gets you your loads, would make sure they had something coming out of that area before they sent you to that area.
See, that's the thing.
And it's
He did have that, like
right, but I'm saying,
the load
and
that
that
he was picking up was his load out of there. He was supposed to. He dropped a load uh, at the same place he was picking up, and it just happened
okay,
to before he was gonna load, something malfunctioned.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, in that sense, that's kind of sucks. But I'm saying it seems like to me nowadays with a lot of these drivers that end up sitting for weekends or sitting for multiple days is when I first started, they always made sure they had something come. And even when I was with that last company driving with my wife, they always made sure that we had a load coming out of that area before we even got there.
yep.
And I feel like a lot of mega fleets or bigger companies don't do that.
Yep.
They just see a rate and they send you into an area, and hey, we'll find something,
Yep.
you know. But I remember the company that when I'm talking about, we had 65 trucks, over the road trucks, and my wife and I would pick up a load in Mississippi, go to West Sacramento, California, and back as a team truck, which I know is unheard of in a lot of places, but that's what we did. And before we dropped that load in California, 95% of the time, we already had our backhaul information coming out of California. And I feel like a lot of companies don't do that anymore.
Yep.
You have your load going in, and we'll find you something when you get there.
Yep.
And I think that's where you get a lot of downtime. You get a lot of upset drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why now we're trying to tie this all back in. That's why I think either drivers need to get paid for everything that they do, or they need to get paid a salary if you're going to make them sit. Because if you're going to make them sit and not pay them, that's not right.
Yep. See, like
And
back to the pay thing.
right,
My base salary $1,500 a week.
right,
Um, plus I get money for being out of town. So like even if I was just to go up to Oklahoma City and I was staying in a hotel, get out of town pay.
right, per diem.
Yep. Plus, they allow us uh money on our company card to eat on.
Right.
And I mean realistically, I can eat 2 meals off of what they the limit they give us per day.
And you and I have talked about this quite a bit about where you're at, and we're not going to mention names or nothing like that, but
Yeah.
you can talk about pay or whatever. But um, I think more companies, and the reason why I bring up the salary thing so much, I think not maybe every aspect of that, but I think more trucking companies should be able to negotiate whatever they're hauling or whatever contracts they have to be able to offer drivers. I'm not saying hotel because you guys do something a lot different than a lot of most, but
Yeah.
I don't think every driver should get up. Maybe I can't say this, but maybe a hotel room once a week, if they want it,
Well,
or maybe every driver shouldn't get per diem or food on a company card where they can eat. But I'm saying there should be
there should be some
perks,
kind of perk.
right? Hey, if you're going to be stuck waiting on a load for a weekend,
Go get a hotel
w-
room on us.
right?
And
Once a week, you can go get a hotel room on the company.
yeah. Or
You,
even, you're out, for 2, 3, 4, 2 months. On your 34, go get a hotel.
right? Yeah, and it should be covered by the company, and it shouldn't be some sleaze bag motel.
No, 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 no.
You know,
Like the hotels that we stay at are pretty nice.
Yeah. I don't think it's unreasonable to be like $150 hotel a night. You know,
Yeah.
hey, go. You're on a 34. You got to take a 34 on the road. Here, go find a hotel room in your area
Mm-hmm.
that's $150 a night
Yep.
or $180 a night, which you can get a
You
decent
can get a
motel for that
really
rate.
decent hotel for that rate.
You know what I'm saying? And spend your 34 on a hotel.
Mm-hmm. That
But even better than that, take 48 hours instead of 34.
yes.
Spend 2 nights in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Behave yourself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Don't go out getting drunk. Don't go out getting yourself arrested. But spend 2 nights in a hotel. What's if you're out for 3 weeks at a time or 2 weeks and you're running recaps a lot and stuff like that, and what's 2 nights in a hotel
Mm-hmm.
to reset?
Yep. That actually,
You know, and that plays into one of our other topics of mental health.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
But I think we could go back and forth like this for quite a bit on this topic, but we did have another topic, but we'll end up wrapping that into another day, you know, and I think we've gone quite a distance on this one topic, so
we're almost at the hour mark.
right. So let's wrap this up, and I thank y'all for stopping by. I appreciate y'all joining in. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, whatever platform you're going to find us on. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a follow. Come find us wherever we're at, and we appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for joining. I'm Jacob. This is Kevin, and you're watching the Fuel Tank Podcast. Or sorry, the Diesel Tank Podcast. I screwed that up. We'll get it right. And we hope you come back, stick around, and see us on the next episode. Thank you all for being here.